Welcome back to Cards and Comics. Today I want to show off a new Roberto Clemente pickup. The first one I've had in a long time, actually since the National last year. And I want to talk to you about a little bit about the card and kind of sets it's from. And before I show it off, though, I want to just kind of talk about what it is. It's a Kahn's Clemente. Never owned any Kahn's Clemente cards. I actually thought about picking one up at the National, and I just ran out of time and didn't go back and grab it, but I should have because it was a great card. But I've actually picked up a lot of Kahn's cards that aren't Clemente as part of my set building for Pirate team sets. And I actually just picked up two other Kahn's cards. I'll show them off really quick. Here is a 62 Dick Groat. You got to remember, Dick Groat was the 1960 MVP for the Pirates when they won the World Series. So he was a good player. He ended up playing for the Cardinals after this. And you can see in 62, they had stats on the back. And they had, the black and white photo. And this design was pretty consistent for a lot of years for Kahn's. Next up is a Hall of Famer. And here is a 61 Mazurowski. And I thought this card was really cheap for a PSA 8, which this is one of the highest graded cards for him in this year. And again, you get the stat back. But I thought getting this card, and I think it was, maybe $300 for a PSA 8 61 Kahn's Maz. I think that's really cheap for the condition and the rarity of this set. And again, you can see the back. Now, the big dog and the big card I want to show off. And again, before I get to it, I do have, throughout the years, some other Kahn's like Maz's Rookie and a bunch of 61s, which are these years. But again, I don't own any Clemente cards. So here it is. And unfortunately, it's not the 61 because the 61 is the team set I'm building. And that's where I have a majority of my cards. And I was able to get, again, the 61 Maz. So that's really going to help my team set. But it's a 62. And it is a PSA 7.5, which is the only 7.5 in this census. And it is, I'll knock it down a little bit. It slides around a little bit in the holder, which is kind of the negative part of these kind of holders for PSA. It's one of the top, graded cards in the set. There are, I think, around, I want to say 28 or so 7s to 9s in the set. So it's one of the easiest to get years for grading. But these cards are still pretty rare. And I'm going to show that to you here in a minute. But this is a 7.5. And again, you can see the stat back. I just really like this set. And there you go. I want to focus a little bit on the back. Kind of see what it says. And I just think that the Kahn's cards themselves are, have never really caught popularity. Really, in my opinion, because they're oversized. The designs are pretty plain, but they are, some cool photos. And I'll show you here in a minute. I'm going to go into some of the pop counts and some of the stats of the set, and show you kind of the, what every card for Clemente looks like. So you can kind of see how plain some of the cards look for a lot of years. But I just think in general, they're a food issue, oversized. And that immediately creates a lot of problems. I think the 58 Hires Root Beer set is a really cool set. I love the set, but I actually rather collect it when it doesn't have the tab. And I'm sacrilegious to the pure collectors out there, but I actually collect that set when I can with the tab removed, because then it looks like a normal regular size card. So that's, just how collectors are. We're a little OCD. These big holders are hard to deal with. But, after I got my 3D Clemente, finished my base Clemente set, I said, well, what's left to collect in Clemente? There's two Venezuelan cards, 62 and 66. There's O-Pee-Chee Clemente cards I can collect. But I really wanted to collect this set because I know I'm going to get a 61 at some point. And, he only has so many of these cards. He has 57 through 66 minus the 65. And we'll go through the pop counts in a minute. But yeah, I really wanted to have kind of a unique Clemente set. There's only 1 year here that has a pop count over 100 cards that exist in PSA graded holders. So it's a rare set to put together, and I thought it'd be a lot of fun to try. So I'm going to go through and show you kind of some of the pop counts and just really how rare these Kahn's. All right, we're back, and I'm going to be talking about how rare Roberto Clemente's Kahn's cards are compared to their tops. And actually, I compared them to the 2 years that there's an overlap between tops and tops Venezuela cards. So we're going to get right into it. So here we go. What years did there exist Roberto Clemente Kahn's cards? Well, it was 57 through 66. However, there is no 65 for some reason. And that would have been a postcard color type card. So starting in 57, I have them all in order here so you can see what they look like photo-wise. 57 and 58 are 2 unique photos. But in 59 through 61, you can see they use the same photo, just cropped it differently. Kind of lazy when you kind of line them all up there. They don't, really present well to have the same photo 3 years in a row. And given the cost and rarity of the cards, it's kind of disappointing that you're going to basically buy the same card 3 years in a row, because even the design of the cards are fairly similar, just different placement or size of the Roberto Clemente signature was what they changed. 62 was a different photo. 63 was a different kind of card where they put a border. So 63 looks the most like a baseball card or standard card that you would find, from Topps or, just what we consider to be, a card. The rest, the other years look like borderless cards or postcards. 64, the color card there, the first color card definitely looks like a postcard, right? So that makes the card less look like a baseball card and more like just something you would buy at a gas station as a postcard at spring training. And the 66 is the first and only year that has Clemente and the ugly yellow Kahns, and a lot of those have that line there where they were cut, so they were attached to hot dog packages and then cut off, so you can either get it with or without the tab. Now Kahn's cards lasted until I believe 68, so there's 2 years where they could have had Clemente, they didn't. I don't know why. I don't know why there's not a 65 Clemente. There's a 65 Willie Stargell, but no Clemente. So let's get into the rarity of the cards. So if you look at Kahn's versus Topps, how rare they are. So if you take every year that a Kahn's card was issued and a year that a Topps card was issued for Clemente, basically it's right at 1% of the pop count of Topps. And this is all grades. So this is qualifiers, half grades, just everything that's ever been graded by PSA, authentic, everything. There's only 460 total Kahn's cards of Clemente across all years, compared to over 47,000 Topps cards. So again, it's 1% of the pop count of a Topps card. Now, if you look at grades 7 through 10, which I consider high grade, there's only 130 cards total across those 57 through 66. So like 8 years that he has a Kahn's card. So that's pretty rare. If you go down to the next comparison, I've got the 2 years, 62 and 66, that you have both a Kahn's card, a Venezuela card, and a Topps card. And you can see that even though the Venezuela cards are super rare, there's actually more of them than there are Kahn's cards for those 2 years. Now, with the Venezuelan cards, they are much more condition sensitive. They were put into binders or books, so they are tremendously hard to find in a 7 to 10 grade, whereas there's a lot more Kahn's cards. So you got to look at it like, I can find a Venezuelan card a little easier than a Kahn's card, but I'll have much more of a chance of finding something in better grade in the Kahn's cards. Now, if you look at just total availability, of Kahn's cards by year, 58 and 59, and 66 have less than 30. which is interesting that 66 is so low. You would think that every year you would gain a little bit more. Print runs would be a little higher. Condition would be a little easier. And you see the condition is a little easier with basically 20 high grade 66 cards out of the 29, but they're pretty rare. And I don't know if it's because of the design that people just didn't think that they would be worth anything, with the yellow borders, or, people just really didn't collect them, and, those years. But with Clemente being such a popular card and player, and these cards are pretty expensive comparatively to just a common card from that era, that you would have thought that if somebody had these cards, by now they would have, either graded them, or had them available on eBay for people to buy to grade, because these cards don't really have that condition where people just, have to have an 8 or a 9. There's just not enough of them that exist. So people generally, to complete their Clemente Kahn's runs, will take any grade as long as the card looks nice. So I see a lot of collectors that have 3s and 4s that normally collect 8s and 9s because they just can't find them in high grade, or there's just not enough that exist. You can see there's no cards in 58 and 2 cards in 59. So only 2 collectors can have a high grade 59, and nobody has one in 58. In 58, there's only 9 total cards to begin with that's on the pop count. So that card is a ghost. So the 58 Kahns is probably one of the rarest Clemente cards to even own in any grade. If it had, a shotgun blast through it, it'd still be worth grading because there's so few of them. Going into the rest of the years, you can see, in general, it follows the pattern of year over year. You see, a gradual increase until 66. And then, there are some anomalies, like the 1960 set has 51 total, which is pretty much in the middle in first pop counts for the set, but only 3 high grade cards. 57 makes sense because, again, the 50s cards, a little harder to get than 60s cards. But just weird that in 60, we had 3, and 61 you had 16. And then in 62 you had 28. So 60 was just a weird year in my opinion, a little bit of an anomaly. But 59 only had 2. So it kind of makes sense a little bit, but it was one of those years where, it's hard to find them in high grade. So in general, I think these cards are rare, but they're not the prettiest, and they're oversized, which automatically make collectors, just not like them. They look a little bit more like postcards in some cases. So again, there's a lot of things about the cards I understand why, that even with such low pop counts, that they haven't really taken off in price the way you would think that these cards would. Now, you can go to the buy nows and see what some of these cards are listed for. They're listed for astronomical prices in some cases. But they don't really sell, and they're not really something that you just see a lot of people clamoring for outside of hardcore Clemente master set builders, or just people who are just looking to add, let's say they put together a whole team set, or a whole, just a whole con set, are looking for these cards. But again, they're not as popular as some of the other Clemente cards. And I think it's kind of a shame because I have grown to like the set. I think that it has a good quirkiness to it. And I do feel like the coming out of, hot dog packages, that they're always going to be condition sensitive, and that bears out. So that's my, video about Kahn's cards. I'm hoping to add a few more this year. Again, you've got 10 cards. I was off a little bit on my number there in the other video, but you have very few years to collect here, so it's doable from a total count. And honestly, you could probably grade some of these yourself. I see some raw ones for sale quite often, and I see them at shows. So this might be a set that you could grade your way into as well, if you don't care that the cards are only like 1s, 2s, and 3s and 4s. In fact, I graded my own 57 Maz rookie, and it came back a 3. So I think this is a cool set. I might grade a few, buy a few, and hopefully get maybe 2/3 of the way the set done maybe this year. I'll be at the National this year looking for these cards, and it'll be a lot of fun. So there it is, guys. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time on Cards and Comics. Bye.